Hello guys, Sajid is here with a new tutorial, and in this tutorial you will get introduced to Nestjs by building your first REST API CRUD application with this framework. This framework is built on top of Node.js, Express.js and TypeScript and inspired by Angular. We will be using TypeORM as the ORM in this video. TypeORM supports many databases like SQLite, MySQL, and Oracle, but we will be using SQLite because it doesn't need any special installation. Let's start this framework by installing Nest CLI, which is the official tool for generating Nest projects. Open your terminal and run this command sudo npm install -g at nestjs/cli. As you can see, the CLI is installed. Now I clear the terminal and I check the version of the Nest CLI. The Nest CLI version is 6.11.0 with me. After installing the CLI, navigate to your working folder and run this command to generate a new project. This command will generate a new project for me. The CLI is asking me which package manager would you like to use. I want to use npm. As you can see, the project is created, and now I navigate to my project directory and run the local development server. cd crud app. Crud app is my project directory, and now I run my local development server. The command is npm run start :dev, a bit different from the command of other frameworks. Our local development server is started, but port information is missing in the CLI output. By default, Nest use port 3000, so I type localhost 3000, and as you can see, our project is up and running. Now I jump to my working directory and open my project in VS Code. Let me explain the directory structure of Nestjs project. Okay, the first folder we have is the the dest folder. When we run the nest CLI build command, then the CLI build our project and place all the code inside this dest directory. The code inside this folder is production ready, and we only upload the code inside this folder to our server, or you can say we only upload this folder to our server. The next folder we have is node underscore modules. Npm place all our dependencies in this folder. In this video, we will install TypeORM through npm, and npm will place the code of the TypeORM in this folder. The next folder we have is src. This folder is very important for us, and most of the time we will work in this directory. In this directory, we have 5 files: app.controller.spec.ts, which is a testing file, app.controller.ts, which is a controller, app.module.ts, which is a module, and app.service.ts, which is a service file, and main.ts. Let's start from main.ts. This is the entry point of our project. In the top of this file, we are importing two dependencies: Nest factory from nestjs/core and app module from app.module. Then we have only one function, the bootstrap function. This function creates HTTP server, HTTP local development server for us and start our application on port 3000. If you if you need, you can change the port. And as you can see, our project will serve app.module. This is the only module with us. And if I open this module, this is the app.module. A project must have at least one module: app, app module, app.module, the default module. Okay, now after main TS, the main TS is using app.module. Let's explore the app.module. In the top, we are importing module decorator from nestjs/common. We are importing the app comport, the app controller, and app service. Okay, now let's jump to the app controller. In app controller, we are importing these two decorators from nestjs/common, and we are also importing the service. Okay, and in the constructor of our controller, we are passing the app service. In the previous video, I were explaining the directory structure of Nest.js. I have already explained the above three directories: dest, node underscore modules, and src, and I also explained the files inside the src directory. Now it's time to understand the remaining directory structure. The next folder with us is test. We place our test cases in this folder, but we will not use this folder in this crash course. Nest.js use Jest. Jest is a delightful JavaScript testing framework with a focus on simplicity. This testing framework works with project using Babel, TypeScript, Angular, React, Vue, Nest, and more. If you want to know more about this framework, then visit jest.js.io. Okay, the next file is .gitignore. The .gitignore is a test file that tells Git which file or folder to ignore in a project. All the files and folder which are listed in this file will not be uploaded to a remote repository. Next file is prettier.rc, which is a configuration file of Prettier. Prettier is a code formatting tool. Visit prettier.io for more details. Next file is nest-cli.json, which is the configuration file for nest-cli. Below two files, package-log.json and package.json, are npm related files. We have readme.md file, which is GitHub related file, and below two file, testconfig.build.json and testconfig.json, are TypeScript configuration files. The last file is tslint.json, which is a tslint configuration file. Tslint is a linter tool for TypeScript, and it checks TypeScript code for readability, maintainability, and functionality errors. Okay, so this was a brief explanation of the directory structure of Nest.js. Now let's start coding and build our first CRUD application in Nest.js. For the sake of better code organization, let's create a module that will contain our CRUD functionality. The command is nest generate nest generate module contacts. Contacts is the name of our module. As you can see, the contacts.module.ts file is created and the app.module.ts file is updated. The contacts.module.ts file, this file is created inside this directory, the contacts directory, and this module is imported in an app.module.ts, which is our main module. It is imported here. Okay, so I clear the terminal, and next let's create a service that will encapsulate all CRUD operations. The command is nest generate service, and the name of our service is contacts, and this service is the part of contacts module. Okay, two files are created: contacts.service.spec.ts, which is a testing file, and contacts.service.ts file, which is the service file, and the contacts.module.ts file is also updated. As you can see, inside our module, these two files are created. This is a testing file and this is our service file. We will encapsulate all the CRUD functionality here, and this is our module file. Our service is imported here automatically. Now the next step is to create a module. We will also call it contexts, and it will be created inside the contexts module. The command is nest generate controller, and the name of this is the name of this controller, and it will be generated inside the context directory inside the contexts module. Two files are created. One is context.controller.spec.ts, which is a testing file for this controller, and this is the actual controller file. Okay, and this file is also updated because our controller is automatically imported here. Okay, so we have created all our necessary folders and files. Now let's open our contexts controller and write our first method. Okay, so I write my method here. My method name is index, and it will return a string value. It returns a string hello world. Okay, what about the route and the request method of this method? How it should be called? I want this method can be only called with get method, so I import get decorator, and I also use get decorator above this method. So this method can be called with get request. Okay, and what about the URL? So let's say the URL is index. So so this method can be called with get request and with index URL. So our controller URL is contacts, and this is our method URL. So first I write the URL of my application. As you can see, it's running on port 3000, and then I write the URL of my controller. My controller URL is slash contacts, and then I write the URL of my method. My method URL is index. As you can see, the hello world message. What if I remove this URL? Okay, so this means that call a method of the controller which has no URL. Call that method which has no URL. So now in this controller we have one method which is index, and this has no URL. Okay. Okay. Now before adding more code to my controller, let's add a database. I will use TypeORM for my SQL in this crash course because Nestjs support it, and it is considered the most mature ORM available in TypeScript. Okay, so I installed the TypeORM and my SQL driver. Okay, our next step is to import the type ORM module to our app module. And I should also pass it in imports array, but here I will also call a method of this module that is for root. Okay, and here I will pass the database configuration. Okay, so we are using MySQL database, and our host is localhost. This is the port of our database. This is our username of the database, and my database password is password, and I created nest underscore crud underscore app database for this crash course, and here we will pass the entity path. Entities path. Now I explain you that here I pass format the code. Okay, it's formatted. Okay, what is entity and what is this path? As you can see, the entity definition. Entity is a class that maps to a database, table, or collection. When using MongoDB, you can create an entity by defining a new class and mark with it entity with this decorator with at entity with this decorator. Actually, this is something like a model. If you are using Laravel or something like that, then this is a model. Here we call it entity. Okay, so we also pass the path of our entities. So the this function, this is the constant, this is not a function. So okay, so keep in mind this is the path of our entities. Let's check that our our application is running. Yes, it's working. Okay, now let's generate the entity for our controller. So as I told you, entity is a class that maps to a database table, and the complete explanation is here. So now I clear my terminal and I create an entity. Okay, so the command is touch src slash I create contact slash contact dot entity dot ts, and this entity file, this contact entity is created. Now I import some decorators. I import entity decorator, column decorator, primary generated column, primary primary generated decorator, primary generated column, sorry, From what? From type ORM. Okay, sorry, type ORM. Okay, now as I told you here, that you can create an entity by defining a new class and market it with entity decorator. So I'm defining a class like this and with entity decorator. Okay, sorry, entity. Next, I import my class. I export my class, and my class name is contact. So we have one primary generated column. The name of that column is ID and it is a number. Next we have another column. The name of that column is first name and it is a string. Then we have another column. That column name is last name and this is also string. Then we have another column. This column name is email and this is also string. Another column that is prune and this is also string. Another column city and this is also string. Another column country and this is also this is also string. Now let's import this entity to our context module. Okay, and now let also import the type ORM module. I import type ORM module to our contexts module, and here I create imports this time we will not use the for root method. This is for connectivity. We will use for feature method, and here we will pass array, and inside array we will pass contact. Okay, now type ORM will recognize the contact entity and will synchronize the database accordingly by creating a contact table. Let's verify it. So I'm inside MySQL. I'm using MySQL CLI client. So as I told you, uh, I create I created this database for this CRUD application. So now I run a command show tables. First I need to refresh the page. Now show tables, and as you can see the contact table is created. If I write disk contact, and these are all the fields in our contact table. Okay, now let's update our our service or contact service, I import some dependencies. The path. Okay. Now inside our contact service class, I create a constructor node, and inside constructor I pass some code. Okay, so here I write some code like I pass here inject repository which I imported above. I should remove this thing. And here I pass the contact service, and then I import, sorry, not import but contact repository. Okay, now let me explain it. Okay, so here in the service, first we imported repository, injectable repository, and contact service. Next, next we inject the contact repository via the constructor of the service. The injected contact repository provide us methods that we can call to run CRUD operations. Now from type ORM I import two other things, that is update result and delete result. I need this because you will see why. Now here I paste the four CRUD functions. These are my four functions which perform CRUD operations. Like this returns all the rows from my contact table. This create a record, this update a record, and this delete a record based on ID. Okay. After implementing the service that wraps the necessary CRUD operation of our application, let's now start the endpoints. I open my controller and I have already updated it. I imported some dependencies. I already imported this thing, the contact service, and passed it in the constructor. And I also imported some more decorators: post, put, delete, body, and param. Now I paste my methods here. I forgot to import the contact, which is our entity. So now we have one, two, four methods. I format the code. Okay, the get method returns all our records, and it returns a promise of contact type, and it also calls the find all method of our contact service. Find all methods, this one. Like this, we have a post method which create a record, and this method can be called through get request, and the route is the URL for this method is create, and we are using body decorator here. The body decorator get the data from the request and pass to this method, and we have then next we have update decorator, and this is for the update method. We use this method to update a record in the database, and here in the URL we have also a variable which is the id, which stores the id of the record. And here we have param decorator which accepts the 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 URL variable. And then we have delete method which delete the record. But all these method uses the methods of the services. Okay, now let's test this code through postman. Okay, I will test my APIs through the postman. So this is my post URL which creates the record. So I'm passing a JSON object, and these are all the fields which are also there in my entity. And I selected raw option and JSON, application slash JSON, and I'm using the post request. So as you can see, the same record is returned. This means that this record is created. Now if I hit my index method, this is the route of my index method which returns all the records. So as you can see, there is one record in my database. Let me to create another one. Again I change my method to, sorry, this is not, this is, I change, I create. Okay, another record is also created. Let me verify it. As you can see, we have two records now. Now let me to update the first record. So I want to update the first record. So the URL is something like this. Here we have the ID of the record. Now we have this ID, this record ID is 3, and now I will use put method. Okay, so the here is Malik Sajid, so I call it Malik 1234, and I update the record. Okay, affected rows 1. Now again we have 123. Next is delete the record. I want to delete record 3, and as you can see, affected rows 1. We have only one record now. Thank you for watching these videos.